Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark. Happy to be with you again. It's been a while for me. I wasn't on the show 2 weeks ago, but I'm so happy that I'm back on the show for Leadership Conversations. This is a show where we explore the application of leadership within the world that matters to you. I'm happy to be joined by my friends and colleagues today, Dr. Philip Foster, Dr. Latanya Hughes. And today we're talking about the leadership skills needed as an entrepreneur to start and run a business. Many of you that are watching this show have interest in running a business, starting a business, taking over a business, and there are very unique leadership skills that are needed to do just that. So today we're going to cover that. But before we get started, I wanted to give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive right into the conversation. Latanya, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Good morning. I am Dr. Latanya Hughes, the authority in global business dynamics. I specialize in leadership and organization development, and I'm excited to be here. I think this is a great topic. I run into a lot of entrepreneurs out there who have a great idea, they have a great concept, and they want to hit the ground running. They're very enthusiastic, but there's some challenges and there's some things that they can use a little bit tweaking on, so they don't have to double back to do some things later on that they kind of need to do in the beginning. So looking forward to today's conversation.
Me too. Philip?
Good morning. I'm Dr. Philip Foster, and I am with Maximum Change Consulting. I'm a futurist, and I'm also a thought leader in leadership and business acumen. And so I'm really excited to be here and digging into this topic today.
And again, I'm William Clark. I am a leadership specialist and a change management consultant to nonprofits. So I love to work with nonprofits and churches to help them build their leadership skills and manage and deal with change. So I really want to jump into this topic. I typically kick off the conversation asking what is leadership, but let's skip that because I think we've kind of covered that enough, right? We all know what leadership is. But let's kind of talk about what is entrepreneurism. What is that, and why is it important for emerging leaders to know what entrepreneurialism is?
I'll let Philip go first this time.
Oh, you're so kind. Well, I've actually been thinking about this for the last couple of days, and I think that entrepreneurism really covers three different areas. Those who enter into something serendipitously, in other words, they come up with this idea and they just haphazardly or accidentally end up in their own business because they found some problem that they have a solution for. Then I have this other area of entrepreneurism where there's these individuals who have some sort of internal passion to own businesses, run things, start up things, create new things. And then I also believe that there's a third level of entrepreneurism, and that's really everyone else, people that are in businesses doing a job. And the reason why I think they're entrepreneurs is because they got up out of bed and went to work, and they're part of a process and system to create something. So while everyone tends to fall into one of those categories, obviously the majority of us, or many out there, fall into the last category. I think today we're going to probably be talking more about the first two.
I agree with that. I like that last concept of entrepreneurism inside of an organization, because that's true. How many people do we see take the lead on projects or initiative to start something or introduce a new concept or to be innovative? So I think a lot of people kind of get their entrepreneurial feet wet when they're inside of another organization, and that's what gives them the idea or the concept or the desire to step out on their own and take what they've kind of started and branch off and do something else. And if done properly, it can be successful, letting the previous organization kind of be a mentor and a guide to them in their new organization, creating a partnership dynamic to where both can flourish and thrive, because now they're creating a win-win situation. So it really is depending upon how the two come together and work together to foster that relationship. So I do believe there's a sense of entrepreneurship for people within other organizations. And then there are those people who just say they have that mindset of, I don't want to work for nobody. I want to be my own boss. We've heard it all before. We've all heard it before. And it's like, that's not the reason why you become an entrepreneur, because if that's your sole purpose, you're going to faint along the way. Your why, the why, and I always point back to that. Every session I have with my clients, I always point back to what is your why.
Yep.
Your why can't be, I want to be my own boss, because you're going to answer to someone. You're going to answer to IRS, okay? You're going to answer to your customers. You're going to answer to your investors. You're going to answer to someone. So your why has to be greater than independence. So as when it comes to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurism, it's a desire, it's an innate desire within someone to be innovative and bold, to introduce something new. Even, I know we hear there's nothing new under the sun, and there's something out there, but there's something out there for everyone. You may have a unique spin on an idea or a concept that kind of speaks to a specific market or demographic. So for me, when we start talking about entrepreneurism, it's about innovation. It's about creativity. It's about someone launching out into the deep to bring forth a product or service, whether it's new or an enhancement or, some type of different version of something that's already out there that meets a need for a specific market or demographic.
Yeah, man, that's some good stuff. I mean, one of the things I'll share or add to that is, entrepreneurs take the initiative. And I think that you guys kind of hit on that pretty heavy. It is about taking an initiative in any sort of venture. And Philip, I think you talked about it when you said whether it's in an organization, whether it's in your own business, whether it's in your community, in your family, in your relationship. I think entrepreneurialism is active or available for us to kind of utilize and put to good use in whatever situation we're in. The other thing I'll say as well about that is entrepreneurs, from a business standpoint, supply capital. They have to contribute something to get the business off the ground. Now, depending on the context of where this conversation goes, capital can be a variety of things. Obviously, resources and money is kind of the obvious contribution. But when you think about people who are entrepreneurs within an organization and the organization is funded from other sources, then the question is, what type of capital can you provide? And there are a variety of sources of capital. There could be time capital. There could be trust capital. There can be leadership capital. There could be follower capital. There could be a bunch of capital or even ideas as capital to contribute to an organization. The last thing I'll say about being an entrepreneur is that the entrepreneur also is a part of or in control of business activities. That does not mean that you are the final decision maker, because even when you own a business, if you have partners or investors or a board or whatever the structure is, you have to tap into your partners, investors, or board to make sure they are on board with the decision, make sure they are sold out for the decision. But at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur within an organization or in your own business, you are controlling business activities. That means that you are doing the research, you're doing the legwork, you are directing staff, you are providing guidance and infrastructure for people so that they can support you in the entrepreneurial activity that you're in, or that you're doing rather.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that capital is really also ideas. Sometimes we think of things as tangible, but definitely ideas would be included in that idea of capital, entrepreneurial capital.
So let's dig into the topic. Why is being an entrepreneur important to current and emerging leaders? Why should emerging leaders care about being an entrepreneur?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump into that. My platform of thought and writing and things that I talk about and blab about is really focused on the 21st century organization and more of a self-leadership style of organization where things are flatter, less hierarchy. And so I think as we make this change, and also by the year 2025, we're looking at probably about half of our employees being contract labor or part of the gig economy. So I look at these changes that are coming, whether we like it or not, and I think, entrepreneurism has to become an important skill set that we have in this new reality of a new century organization. And so I think that entrepreneurism, while misunderstood by many, they think automatically Steve Jobs and other people like that started Apple or a company. And that's great. I mean, that is part of entrepreneurism. But more than that, it's about how do you self-govern yourself? How do you self-motivate yourself? How do you create ideas and concepts and collaboration basically entrepreneurism is creating something from nothing, or taking something else and creating something. And so how do you do that? And I think that we, as a future business owners and business entrepreneurs, have to understand that not everyone has these skills, and we have to find ways to bring these skills to the mass.
Wow, I think Dr. Foster just said a mouthful about just entrepreneurism overall, but I think it was fantastic. I think, you made some excellent points, and one thing that I just posted about was self-governing. As an entrepreneur, when it comes to self-governing, you have got to have self-control and self-discipline. Time management is crucial, but if you lack self-control and self-discipline, you can't govern yourself, which means time is going to get away from you, and time is your best asset. It is valuable. It's like your number one capital asset, because you need to maximize every waking minute you have investing time into your business. So time for research and development, you've got to set that aside and know how much time is going to take to dedicate to that, so that you can hone and really get what you're bringing to the market down. I can say for myself, I make jewelry. One of my businesses, I make jewelry. I'm wearing a piece now. I spend time in research and development. So after I make the piece, I'm going to wear the piece for a period of 3 to 6 months. Why? I'm testing the materials. I'm testing the holdup. I'm testing the manufacturing process. I'm testing the quality, because I'm testing the value of what I'm about to bring to the market. So before I actually present it and put it on my website and make it available for sale, I have tested it. That means I've proven it, and I can now create the story behind the piece, and I can actually create that value. So when you take the time to put into whatever it is you're doing, you're creating value. But in order for me to do that, I've got to manage my time well when it comes to making this piece. I can't spend 8 hours making one piece. For example, when I've got other things I have to do, although I do have pieces that take 8 hours, I can't spend all 8 hours at one sitting. I may do 2 hours here, 2 hours here, 2 hours there. There's a process to it, depending on what you're bringing to market and what you're doing. When it comes to leadership, I can't neglect my leadership business. So I've got to do research. I've got to write. I've got to do certain things. And so time management is crucial, because I need to maximize my time. So that means I need to govern myself accordingly. How do I do that? I've got to have tools in place and be properly equipped. I've got to have partnerships and people who hold me accountable for the things that I say I'm going to do, so that I'm hitting my benchmark, so I'm hitting my own goals, and so I don't lose focus. That's one of the things that I find when I'm talking with people, talking with clients, particularly those who are entrepreneurs on the side, because they have a regular 9 to 5 and they're venturing off into entrepreneurism to build something later on. Time management is crucial. So you've got to kind of eke in the time to be an entrepreneur, whether it's after hours or somewhere on your lunch break. Time management is important, and so you've got to find that time to be able to do the things you want to do in your business, which means every waking moment you have, you've got to be working on something and discipline yourself. That may mean stepping away from social media for a while. That may mean saying, you know what, as much as I like going to the movies, I'm not going to have to be able to go to the movies. As much as I like to hang out, I'm going to have to forego that for right now. So when it comes to entrepreneurism, you may have to sacrifice some short-term enjoyment for a long-term goal.
So Jennifer, I see a question. I'm gonna get to it in a quick moment. Why I think entrepreneurship is important for emerging leaders. Several reasons. Entrepreneurialism, the concept, and Philip, I like the way you said it. It's a skill set. The skill set of being an entrepreneur gives an organization a fighting chance to become sustainable. Whether it's an established organization, a newly formed organization, an organization that's maturing. With entrepreneurship, the organization can sustain itself for the long haul. Secondly, entrepreneurialism is a hotbed for creativity. The conversations I've had with each of you offline, separately and collectively, have been nothing short of us sharing cool ideas. We were talking about some of those ideas before we went live today. And because we are all in our own space as entrepreneurs, albeit serving different segments of the marketplace, the fact that I can feed off of what you're doing allows me to be creative in my own space. And therefore, I can draw from other entrepreneurs. The last thing I'll share before I get to Jennifer's question is that entrepreneurialism creates opportunities to provide a product or service to the market to solve a problem, whether it's internally in your organization or whether it's within your own company. It's all about providing something to solve a problem. What is it that you're trying to resolve? The fact that you take the initiative, the fact that you take the oomph to kind of get up and do it is what we call entrepreneurship. You're taking the initiative to fix something and to make sure you have satisfied customers. Now, Latanya, you were talking about time management. Jennifer had a good question. And her question is, what tools do you use to manage your time? Did you want to start there? Because I wrote down a few that I use to manage my time.
Sure. I think we talked about this in another one of our actual conversations about time management. I believe it's something that will probably come up in emerging conversations, but there are so many different tools to help you manage your time. I am very particular about making sure I maximize my time. So one of the first things I do is I always schedule my day, and I do it the day before. So tomorrow I will be planning tomorrow this afternoon, so that I know what I'm doing the next day. Then I actually time myself on certain things, particularly social media, because I know that can kind of be a time eater and a time waster. So if I say I'm only going to spend 2 hours on my social media across all of my different platforms, that's it. I'm going to set my timer for 2 hours. And when that buzzer stops, that stops. The same thing when it comes to research. If I say I'm only going to spend 2 hours on research, then I set my timer for research. I don't pack my day or do my schedule so tight that I don't have room for flexibility, because that's not realistic, particularly when you're an entrepreneur, because you don't know when opportunities are going to present themselves for you to get more business or to speak or to do whatever. So I always leave room in my schedule for flexibility. I always keep a calendar. I keep a manual calendar because technology, for some reason, will always get away from me. But I also have my Google Calendar, and I have everything syncing to my phone. So I have my Google Calendar, I have my mail calendar, I have all of these different calendars, and they all sync to my phone. So if, for whatever reason, if it's not on my calendar, whether it's my my hard old-fashioned calendar, my old Stephen Covey, portfolio, that kind of thing, or electronically. But if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. So when I get calls for appointments like this week, I'm packed. So someone wanted to meet with me, and I said it's going to have to be next week because I don't have any room in my schedule this week for anything extra. So you got to use different mechanisms to find what works for you. For me, calendars and to-do lists work for me. For some people, that just doesn't work. So I think there are different tools and mechanisms to help you stay on track. I know the calendars. I especially do alerts. I love pop-up alerts on my calendar because it lets me know however much time I have to be ready for a particular event or whatever it is I have going on, so I can prepare myself. So for this morning, I got to pop up an hour before and 15 minutes before. So I have plenty of time to prepare and know that I'm not going to be late because this is showing up as an alert. So those are some things that I do to help maximize my time. The timing thing, I just started doing that a few months ago. As a way to better hone my time management skills to really maximize my day, because I was getting things done, but I felt that there were other things that I could do to be even more efficient. And so I'm just kind of tweaking it, playing around with it to see how it's working. So far, it's working pretty good. But, you just have to tweak and find what works for you. And that's just something that works for me.
So, real quick, my wife uses this statement that I absolutely love, and it's that good managers begin on time and end on time. And really, that's a saying that she has when she's doing meetings in her organization. But I think that plays through with everything we do as entrepreneurs. We begin on time, we end on time. For me, I use both a technological timing device. I use my phone with a Google Calendar on it, and I get alerts and pop-ups, and it even texts me, so I get those things. And also, and I've talked about this before in other blabs that we've done, I use a journal. It's a basic journal, Basics, BASICS. It's really cool. And what I like about it is it's customizable because you can set up a calendar for each month, and each day you can have things going on. And then there's goals and tasks for each one of these days. So I really like this. And it also has room for notes and other tools in there. So I too use both a paper or manual system and an electronic system. However, most of what I do to stay on task is electronically driven. And really the paper is more for me to make notes about what happened and so forth. But on certain projects where I'm working really intently, I actually use a to-do list. So if I have certain projects that are ongoing where I need to focus on certain things, whether it be phone calls or tasks to be completed, I'm actually using a to-do list on a regular basis. But from a day-to-day standpoint, I'll use technology. And oh, by the way, that technology also includes me using Google Keep to keep notes. So if I'm driving down the road, I can tell my smartphone to basically dictate a note in there, and so it syncs to my laptop. And then if I pull that information up, I can work from that as well.
Yeah, that's great. I Jennifer, just to share what I'm doing, I use several tools. I'm just going to run down them and quickly share with them what they are. I use Apricot for project management. At my current place of business, we use Apricot to manage all of our projects. I use Hootsuite for social media. Latanya, I think what you hit on, and you didn't go in on it, but I think sometimes we can get lost in social media so easily, so quickly. And the more people we follow and friend, the more information we are able to capture on the people that we're following, and it can suck you in. But for the most part, social media is meant to communicate from an entrepreneurial perspective. Hootsuite is a great tool to kind of manage time, manage posting without getting sucked in. For delegation, Jennifer, I use Fiverr and Upwork to delegate tasks to people. I use that because I don't have time to do certain things in my business because I'm working on my business. And so I hire staff to do certain tasks for me. And I got a big project that's being done right now that should be due today, actually. I also use Excel to log ideas. Between Excel and my notes app, I log ideas, and Excel allows me to project out ideas specifically for meetings that I have coming up. So if I want to be able to project out what I'm going to talk about at certain meetings within the next month or so, in one column, I may have the person's name there, and then the subsequent columns, I have the different topics I want to bring up. So that way it's organizing all of my time with people coming up. Of course, I use a calendar app. I use a to-do list app. But one of my best tools that I'll share is Siri. Siri is my best friend. She's my girlfriend on the side, outside of my wife. With Siri, I'm able to do reminders while I'm driving. With my Apple Watch, shameless plug for Apple. Apple, call me. I'm always saying, "Hey Siri, remind me to do XXX," and it's so awesome because I can't stop and write because just like you all, I got small kids. So when I'm home, I can't stop and write something down. So Siri has become this secret lover of mine. Don't tell my wife. So those are the tools that I'm using. And
I'm calling her. I'm calling her.
So Jennifer said, great answer, Latanya. Paul Holiday asks, how do you earn money? I'm assuming he's asking, how do you earn money to support your entrepreneurial endeavors? Does anybody want to answer that?
Sir, there's no eloquent way to say this, so you have to hustle.
Come on now.
Hustle. One, again, you have to know your why.
That's
when
right.
You keep your why
like
in
that.
front of you, it will push you to hustle, hustle, hustle. You will be everywhere your customer is to get your product or service in front of them.
That's
nobody
right.
can push your business like you. Nobody can sell it like you, because nobody has that passion for what you are offering like you. So for me, I have a very specific global market base. It wasn't something that I consciously chose, but it's something that I always gravitated to. So instead of fighting it, this is the one thing I will tell you: don't fight your customer base. Don't fight your idea. Don't fight your calling. Don't fight whatever it is that's burning on the inside of you to try to do something opposite. Go with what is natural to you, and go in that direction, and let that fuel your passion for the other thing that you really want to do. Case in point, I've been in hospitality management for so long, it was like, I don't want to do that anymore. But that's second nature. I can do that in my sleep. So I need to do that to fuel this thing over here. I can do leadership in my sleep. I need to do that to fuel my writing that I want to do. I'm creative. I can paint. I write. I can make jewelry. That I can do in my sleep. Use that into your advantage to fuel other things that you really want to do. That's just like Michael Jordan wanting to play baseball. Okay. But he was a basketball genius. Okay, he didn't stop playing basketball so he can play baseball. He did the two, because one was able to sustain him while he went off and fulfilled this. Same thing with Deion Sanders and, all these different people. You have to hustle, though. You've got to get out there. You can't be afraid to step out there. You've got to get your product, your service. You got to get it from people and get that exposure. Social media is your friend. The internet is your friend. There's a lot of trash out there, but there's a lot of good things that it can use. You got to find a platform that's going to work with you. You've got to find the social media campaign that's going to work for you. There's a lot of different free tools and resources out there. This SBA is your friend. Get with your local economic development department and office. I meet with them all the time, and they help me, and the resources are free, because when you are hustling and you're trying to get a business started, you want as many free resources as possible, so that you can spend time investing money in other things. Because I do believe if you are not willing to financially even invest just as much of your money as it is your time and what you want to present to the world, then you shouldn't be doing it. But it's about properly managing those funds in other areas of more importance than, so you don't want to spend money on free advertising that you can do online, when you need to spend money on your business cards, certain things that are presenting you to the world when you aren't even there. You want your media to speak to who you are. Your brand awareness is important. So you want to spend money investing in your brand and how you look to people when you are not there. So it's important, but you got to hustle. You have to have that mentality and focus on your why so strong that, look, I'm going after this with everything that I have, and partner with the right people. I've said this before. You want to invest in maybe getting a consultant or someone to help coach or mentor you in the beginning. Be willing to make that investment, especially if you don't know what you're doing and you're struggling, or you've reached a plateau, you can't go any further. Find those resources and be willing to make that investment. But there's no other way to say it than you have to hustle and do the work.
I think that one of the best movies out there that exemplifies everything you were talking about is Will Smith's movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. That is the best example of a guy that just hustled. He really believed in something. And when everyone else was turning against him, including his wife, hustle. He worked really hard, and it all paid off. Now, there's, of course, other storylines going on there, but man, that is the exemplification of hustle that I could offer out there in the media.
I don't know if I can use a better word than hustle.
I mean, she stole it.
That was like the it.
That's it.
What I would contribute to that question, if it's helpful at all, and I think LaTanya was hitting on this, Philip will co-sign on this because I saw he responded to that question in the chat room, is that your hustle has to be attuned with your why, and it's all about alignment of skill sets. At the end of the day, you don't have time to waste. If you're wasting time trying to earn money doing something you're not good at, you're really detracting from your dream. You're detracting from your business. And Philip, I saw that you said you write books and you teach. All of us are teachers. At the end of the day, we teach in some capacity, whether we earn a salary, whether we earn a contract, whether we earn someone purchasing something that we're teaching. We're constantly teaching. We are constantly writing. We're constantly sharing. And that's all a part of the hustle, right? We're constantly doing research. LaTanya gave a great example earlier. And so what I would say in response to that, it is about alignment of what you're doing. This is not a financial show. I'm sure we have advice, but I would say as advice I would offer for someone to consider is reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, both the first book and the Cash Flow Quadrant, because that will teach you how to hustle. And also The Richest Man of Babylon. I have leaned on these two books repeatedly for years. I graduated some time ago with my undergrad, and I didn't get money from this one person as a gift for graduation. This person gave me the book, The Richest Man of Babylon. That book changed my life in addition to Rich Dad Poor Dad. So those are great resources to utilize. I see more questions coming in. Evan, give me a moment, but let me jump to the next question. And I think we started down this path. What have you two learned as an entrepreneur that you would like to share with the team? Now, well, for everybody that's watching, we are leadership specialists. We all have doctorates in leadership, and we're talking about the skill sets leaders need to become entrepreneurs or to maintain the entrepreneurial edge. So it's all intertwined. But Philip and LaTanya, what have you learned as an entrepreneur in your own right?
I'll let Philip go first.
Oh, thank you.
Ain't that
thank
sweet?
you, my dear. My kind friend. So, I've started several businesses. I have had failures and successes, and I start with the failures because you're going to have them. If you're an entrepreneur, there's going to be your downswing. But I think what I've learned is that no one is going to do it for you. You have to get out there, and if I could just borrow my friend's word again, hustle. The other thing that I've learned is you don't always enter into a situation with the right skill set. You might have the passion, you might have the why, you might have the ability to hustle, which is part of that passion, but sometimes you don't have the skill set. So let me talk to you real quick about what I learned. I needed mentors, I needed coaches, I needed a mastermind group, and I needed a lot of information in the way of books and research. And I'll tell you right now, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, small business owner, I devour information every day, all day long. If I'm sitting in the pickup line for my kids in the afternoon, I'm sitting on my smartphone and I'm using an app called Flipboard. And Flipboard is just a tool that has a bunch of different news feeds on it and blogs and things. I'm constantly reading. I'm reading books. I probably have 2 or 3 books going at a time. I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly honing my skills in the skill set I need. I'm going to tell you something. When I started writing, I was a terrible writer. I'm not even saying I'm the best writer. I am no Stephen King or Stephen Covey. I am a writer, and I'm constantly working on my craft. So I would say that skill set requires coaching, mentoring, mindset groups, and constant work on that area through learning, reading, and talking about what you're doing and digging into it.
Paul, I saw your question. I'll ask that to the group after we've responded to this question of what have you learned as an entrepreneur. LaTanya, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I share a lot of the same lessons from Dr. Foster. Here's one thing that I learned: always keep notes. You need notes because it creates a history for you so that you can go back, right? So you can go back and see your progression. That can be very encouraging, especially when you have down moments. I don't see failure anymore. I used to, and it used to get me down, but I don't see failure as failure. I see it as a positive because I learned something from it. So
learning tool.
To me, there is no failure because you learn from those down moments. I can't stress reading enough. I mean, read information is your friend. I have multiple books going on. I have friends who sell books into me. I give books. I encourage it with everyone that I mentor, everyone that I coach. One thing that I'm always going to give is some type of reading material or resources to help you, because information is your friend. The one thing that I grew up understanding was people perish for a lack of knowledge. So if you don't know, you can't grow, you can't get better. So I'm always about reading something and getting information. The more information I have, the more dangerous I am, because I'm armed and dangerous with information. So you can't just tell me anything, because it speaks back to my why. I can't let someone else best me in my own why. I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I am. And then the last thing was always keep a positive mental attitude. I do affirmations. They are my friends, and they keep me in a positive frame of mind. I have a positive mental attitude even when I'm not feeling the best. When it's just every day, you're not going to be on cloud nine. It's not a Disney fairy tale every single day. If the world is real, people are mean, you're going to hear no. You're probably going to hear no more times than you will hear yes before you get your first yes. I think there's some type of research out that says that you'll probably hear 20 to 30 plus no's before you'll ever get your yes. But once you start getting yes, you keep going. I don't care if you just get one yes and you still get another series of 30 no's until you get to your next yes. Celebrate that yes. I celebrate small. I celebrate every milestone, every achievement, my first sale. I still celebrate that. My first client, I still celebrate that, because I speak affirmations to say, I got this one, I'll get another one. And I look for how I can get better. I don't bite off more than I can chew.
Mm-hmm.
I had a conversation with a colleague, and she was like, well, why didn't you ask for the referral and go do this, this, and this? Because I know I've got this coming up, and I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I realize that this likely is going to take a lot of my time. And if I can't devote equal amount of time to this over here, how dare I start something and not give them the best when this is going to consume my time? So you got to know how to pace yourself, manage your time, so your clients, your customers can get the best from you, because it's a reflection on you, not on them. So it's okay. And it's okay to say no. I turn down stuff all the time because I refuse to compromise. So if you feel like it's going to cause you to compromise or something doesn't align with your values, it's okay to say no. So no is healthy. It's okay to turn down business. I know that's unheard of. People are like, well, you need every dollar, every sale you can get. But is that the right market? Is that the right client? Is that what you want to start? Do you want that in your brand? Because if it doesn't align with your brand, your vision, your goals, your mission for your business, it's not your client, it's someone else's. So don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to walk away from something that's not a good fit. Let peace be your guide. If you don't have peace about it, walk away from it. So those are just a few things. I mean, I've got so many more, but those are just a few things for me that I have learned from being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I agree with what Evan was saying, that you should only promise what you can deliver.
Right.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I would say a few things that I've learned as an entrepreneur. Success comes at the price of let me just rephrase this. How much I pay for my goods and services is where I find my success. That's a better way of saying it. I think a lot of people have been fooled into thinking that if I can sell this product or service for X number of dollars, this will equate to success. What I've learned the hard way is that how much I pay for my goods and services initially as my initial investment is the determination of how successful I'm going to be. When I overpay, then I will lose. I had that happen into one of my businesses and I failed miserably. The second thing I learned is that volume in sales can be deceptive as well. In one of the businesses I was running, I heard a guy say that if you want to do massive volumes, this is how you structure the deals, and this is, how you get money from the bank. When I kind of did a calculation and I kind of did his numbers, at the end of the day, even with the large number of units he was pushing and considering the overhead costs he had, he wasn't making no more much money than I could do if I just paid cash up front for my units and kept them. Right. So volume can be very, very deceptive if you are an entrepreneur. Capital is important. It's not everything, but it's so important. Natalia talked about investing real dollars. That is critical. You have to learn how to leverage the dollars. Some would say that instead of saving money every month, you should invest money every month so that your money can return back to you. I am not suggesting that that is the right thing to do. I have heard other people say that. And I'll also say this as kind of a no-brainer thing, and that is negotiating is priceless. If you don't know how to negotiate, you're going to lose. If you quickly give in to what people say or want, you're going to lose. You have to be able to leverage what you know and what you have in your possession to win. This is why LaTanya was saying you have to know your why and stay in your lane, because that's information that cannot be lost. That is your leverage point. The moment you start getting into businesses you have no skill set for, or no competency for, or no interest in, you lose the little leverage you have, even if you only have $1 to your name. $1 to your name plus information and knowledge is all the leverage you need. Anybody want to respond to that before I answer one of those questions in the chat room?
Yeah, I would say one other thing. A lot of times we hear entrepreneurs say, you know, I faked it till I made it. And I think that we have to be careful with terminology like that, fake it till you make it. I think that's great, you know, to show confidence. But the problem is, what if you fake it and then you fail? And then you've ruined your brand, because people are going to talk, especially if you're in a community of well-networked business people. So we have to be careful with that terminology, fake it till you make it. Now, I don't have a problem with saying, yes, we can do that, because I have a network of colleagues that work together with me that I could pull together for a team to get that work done. But for me to say, yes, I personally can do it, and I'm lying, I am setting myself up to destroy or hurt, damage my brand if I'm not careful.
I want to just tune in real quick and just say this one thing. Brand integrity matters.
Yes.
Because it will cost you customers and business in the long run, because if you are not trustworthy, and if people find that you are, you become known as a shyster or someone who doesn't have integrity, in the long run, trust me, it will hurt you, and eventually that you'll end up having short-term success, and that long-term success you're looking for will flee. It will always be elusive to you. Research. This is what I've done, and I keep doing this. I research longevity. I research companies who've been in the game for a long time, and I'm not talking about 20 years, 30 years. There's nothing wrong with 20, 30-year companies, but I'm researching companies who've been around for 100 plus years. I'm researching the Booz Allens. I may not do the same thing that they do, but I'm looking to find that thread. I'm looking to find what did they do that has kept them in business through every high and low in the economy. What is it? And I'm telling you, every business I've ever researched has been integrity. When I read about, I can't think of the name of the company, but it was in Canada. They've been around for 100 years, and they risked everything when they made one decision that went against their fundamental core values and integrity, and now they're banned by the World Bank and cannot get any more contracts globally off of one decision. And so it's all about integrity. Look at the Enrons and everything that falls. Brand integrity is everything. Stick to your why, know what you're doing, but research and see what other people who've been in the game for 100 plus years, why have they been in the game for 100 plus years?
You know, if I could just say one other thing, and this is not a religious show by any imagination, but I do know that there is scriptural ancient text that says the good name is priceless. And I think that translates well into any faith system, belief system, whether you believe or not believe, atheism, it doesn't matter. A good name is priceless. And that goes with how do you carry your level of integrity? When we say Enron, those of us who lived through the 80s and 90s, we immediately know that that is an ethical failure, company that was an ethical failure. Then we think of other companies that did something different, and you're like, wow, they really stood up for what was right. And we can name those. A good name is priceless.
There's a lot we can grab from scripture, ancient texts. Yeah, that'll start a whole nother conversation.
I didn't mean to do that.
No, I just there's this one text I wanted to find, but I thought it was cool, and I'm trying to find it. But pretty much it talks about how people go to a market to find a deal, and how do you, what's the mindset around that. But perhaps we'll have another conversation about that. But one of the questions that was asked in the chat room was, what's the biggest mistake you made as an entrepreneur?
Not getting a mentor.
That you're willing to share.
Not getting a
Say
mentor.
Again.
Not getting a mentor, not having someone to coach me, because I believe that a lot of the down moments, a lot of the mistakes that I made, costly mistakes in the beginning that I made, I could have avoided. You cannot be prideful, and you can't have a know-it-all attitude, even if you do know something. You've got to be open and coachable to knowledge and to people helping you. I don't care if you let someone take you by the hand, even if you know it. I'm telling you, during that journey, they're going to show you something you didn't know. They're going to give you a different perspective you didn't know. So for me, I would say not having a coach or a mentor in the beginning, and then having the right partnerships, helping and understanding. And when I say partnerships, meaning finding win-win partnerships, because in the beginning I did a lot of one-sided things, thinking it was going to yield something for me, when really it was me giving and there was no return, because it was a win but not a win-win. And that's where, again, a coach or a mentor could help you see that that's not really going to be a win-win for you. It looks like it will, but it's not going to be a win-win. It's only going to be one-sided, and it's going to be for them. You're not going to get anything out of it. So in the beginning, you got to know how to find those things and look to be able to discern what's going to be a win-win and what's really not. Knowing what questions to ask when you're networking and meeting people and partnering, knowing where to go to network, because all networking events are not for you, because your customer base, your market may not be there. So for me, that is something that I wish I had done. If I could just rewind time, that is what I would do in the beginning. I would just make that investment, and I will find the money. I don't care if it's a payment plan. I would find the money to pay for someone to coach me and guide me, because I'm telling you, in the long run and on the back end, it will save you heartache, pain, time, and money.
Wow. You know, I have to agree with Dr. Hughes on the concept of coaching. In full disclosure, I am a leadership coach. That's how I started before I was even a consultant. And even as a coach, I had a coach and a mentor. So, you know, it's like even a doctor needs a doctor. You cannot go at it alone in the business world. I don't care who you are. Even the best people out there, you go and look at what they're doing. I can tell you right now, Steve Jobs and, you know, all the guys over at Google and all and ladies and all the men and women over at Microsoft, and you name Coca-Cola, Walmart, any big corporation, they're reading books, they have mentors, they have coaches, and they have networks of people that they can relate to, connect with, and share information with, and ideas and what ifs and how do I deal with. I'm going to tell you right now, I belong to a mastermind group. I have coaches. I have mentors. I belong to a group of businessmen and women in my area that have same belief systems. And you know, we get together and we commiserate on problems and find solutions. I cannot understate rather how important it is to have people in your side of the ledger that are with you and fighting with you and also calling you on the carpet on hard things. When I coach people, I tell them, listen, if you don't want me to tell you what you need to hear, do not hire me, because I'm not a yes man. I'm not going to coddle you. I'm not going to tell you what you need to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell it to you with kindness and love, but I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. That's the type of coach. That's the kind of mentor. That's the kind of network you need to be surrounded by.
That's good stuff. The biggest mistake I made, and probably was my first big mistake in business, was that I overpaid for what I was doing in business. This goes back to what the two of you all said, not having a mentor. And it wasn't until I got a mentor from a distance, which this person did not know that he mentored me, that I learned how to do one element of my business differently, and I no longer overpaid. And I wanted to say this. I found the scripture I was thinking about. This is Proverbs 20:14. For anybody listening in the area of business, this is my personal opinion. If you're looking for business concepts and strategies, the Bible is a great resource, but more specifically, Proverbs offers a bunch of nuggets. And here's one, Proverbs chapter 20, verse 14. Bad, says the buyer, but when he goes away, he boasts. And he says the product is bad so that he can get it cheaper. But when he leaves from the marketplace, he knows he got to steal. Mm-hmm. And once I learned that deep lesson in business, it changed everything. I'll shout this person out. This person does not know me. I have read his materials, listened to his blogs. One of the businesses that I am in is in real estate. And this person by the name of Sean Terry, Flip to Freedom, changed my life. The information he shared was free. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I told him if I had to pay for it several years ago, I probably would not have paid for it. But when I started to realize what I got for free, other people paid hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for, I realized, wow, I needed that teaching from him. And I've also learned the importance of connecting to constant learning communities. Now, all three of us have doctorate degrees. We understand traditional academia and we love the process we went through, but we also can appreciate the smaller seminars, the networking opportunities that aren't as academic, but are much more practical. And I would encourage people to think about that. Now, our time is coming to an end. I have several other questions. What I will do is propose to you guys is that we do a part 2 at our next Blab and just continue with this conversation. But I wanted to shout out KRN Halsey. If I'm saying it wrong, forgive me. She mentioned that one of her challenges back then was knowing the importance of sacrifice and managing time as a single mom. KRN, we understand that. We agree with you. Evan said that, oh boy, what did Evan say? Evan said he mentioned something about his biggest mistake. Oh, he said his biggest mistake was not thinking big. Evan, that's huge. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Karen made another mention about making sacrifices for later. You know, one of the things I've learned, and I don't know if it's true. I think it was my mom or somebody mentioned about Anita Baker sacrificed her singing career for her children. So she raised her kids and then pursued her career after they were grown. And then her career just like went crazy. Right. If that's a true story, KRN, I think you're in good company if that's the strategy you're taking.
She says her name's Karen.
Oh, sorry, Karen. Sorry about that. So Karen did ask, does anybody have any guidance in terms of how to manage time with family and responsibilities? And perhaps that could be our last question.
So I will tell you, I have two boys, and they're in elementary school. One is in middle school, and they're not overly active in sports and things, but they have things that go on. I mean, they're very active otherwise, and they're in music, and there's tutoring and other things that go on in our life. And I'm gonna tell you, sometimes because I'm a writer, I write books. A part of what I do for a living. Sometimes I have to get up at 5 a.m. just to get a paragraph or two written before the kids get up. Sometimes, yeah, right. You know, sometimes, I have to, after the kids go to bed, I have to just pop down and answer some emails or again, hammer out another paragraph or two. I think that there's a lot to be said with this concept of chunking time to get things done. I'll tell you another thing that is a good piece of advice. It is a secular book, but it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's a really good book to help you get into the right mindset. It helps you to think about how do you keep yourself motivated, and there's a lot of things here I may not necessarily agree with, but overall the book is a great motivation to keep me in the right frame of mind. So, how do I deal with it? I just have to find ways to make it work. Am I tired? Of course I am. I pass out at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, but I'm up early. I'm finding, throughout the day, I might be sitting in the car with my laptop while I'm waiting to pick up the kids. You just find room to get the stuff done that needs to get done.
I have a unique, I'm a little bit different because I don't have all of that I have to balance, but I will say this. One of the things I found, particularly with working with clients who do have families, is they don't have conversations with their families about their entrepreneurial plans. and
Boom.
then they have the expectation that their family is going to be on board with the
Right.
sacrifice. You can't expect your family to make the same sacrifice and be willing to do that.
Mhm.
We had a colleague, William and I did in our cohort, who started a doctoral program, but didn't have that conversation with his wife and little kids. And so after the first class, after one class, he dropped out. Why?
Mhm.
Because I didn't know it was going to take that much time, and I'm missing my kids and, my wife, and you didn't have that conversation. And the one thing you've got to do is honor your family.
That's right.
I talk about this with my colleague all the time. We did a radio show for women in business, and as a woman, first of all, our whether you like this or not, might be antiquated, but it's the truth. This is how God designed it to be. Our responsibility is to take care of the home. He ain't saying you couldn't work outside the home, so I'm not saying that. But if we're the protect, we take care of our family, we take care of the home, we take care of the house, even while we're working, and so. To find that balance, you've got to have somebody on board. I talked with a woman one time. She wanted to go back to school, and her husband said, I'm not helping you around the house because I didn't tell you that I was in support of you going back to school to get your master's. Now, mind you, this was to help the family get more money for her to get a promotion on the job, but that was his mentality. She did something that he wasn't in agreement with because she didn't even have the conversation with him about it to talk about what it was going to take. What was the sacrifice for the household? How was this going to take away from her responsibilities and duties in the home? It's the same thing whether you're a man. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that you've got to have enough honor and respect for your family to have that conversation up front before you step into something that's going to impact that household. So if you don't have their support, then the answer is, to be honest, no. I mean, or it may be not right now. It goes back to people who make sacrifices. Nita Baker waited until her kids were grown. And, it may be, you may have a good idea. This may not be the time for it to come to the market because you don't have the support system. You need a support system when you're an entrepreneur. And your greatest support system is going to be in your home. And if you don't have that support system in your home, you're going to be out there by yourself, because I guarantee you, when you come back home dejected because the world has beat you up because you've been out there hustling all day, I guarantee you don't want to come home to, excuse my language, hell in your home, because you want to be embraced and your home is like, ain't nobody told you to do that? But we got to take care of stuff in the house, and now you're even more dejected. That's painful. And so the first thing you got to do is have that support. And how do you get that support? You got to have that conversation. You've got to have that conversation up front before you even venture out there, because if you don't, you already lost before you began.
Well, and I also think that it's, what are you willing to give up in the short term to get to where you want to be? And I'll give you an example. I work from home, and one of the agreements that I made with my spouse was that I would get things done around the house because she works a full-time job away from the house. So that means, guess what? I speak to, CEOs and corporations, but guess what? There are days where I have to walk to the other room and make sure the washing machine's running. Okay. I have a role to play in this house. And yes, I'm a man. I mean, I'm just going to lay it out there. Us men have to step up too. So there are certain things that you have to be willing to say, hey, I'm going to do what I can. Now, my goal has been to get to a place where I'd like to just pay someone to do it, but we're not there yet. I mean, we went through, moving and some financial challenges that we changing jobs and situations. So I've decided I'm going to sacrifice. She's sacrificing. And so I have to do things around the house. I have to step up. But that's not to say this is going to be forever and ever. I mean, it's just a period. It's a season of time I have to walk through.
What was shared by Latanya and Philip was not shared in leadership lexicon, but certainly these were leadership skills that was just shared, and
it was our lexicon.
Right.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody listening to what was just shared to take it to heart. My brief contribution, and then we'll shut this down. Latanya, you talked about the support system. One of the very first things that was said to us during residency was, you got to have a support system. There needs to be an agreement. The other thing that was said to us during residency, Philip, we talked about taking advantage of little moments. Dr. Oster used to talk a lot about writing papers at the pool while his kid was competing. And so when the kid got out the pool, Dad, did you see me? Put the computer down. Yeah, did a great job. And when the kid jumps back in the pool, you're back on the computer. Mm-hmm. And here's my contribution, Karen, if this is helpful at all. You joined a little later, but we had a hefty conversation about alignment of time and skills and interests so that your time is consolidated towards one direction. This will eliminate any time wasted on things that aren't adding to your business. The other thing I would say, Karen, that I use a lot, I talked about Siri being my best friend outside of my wife, but I also use...
I think you said it was a lover, if I remember correctly.
I also use dictation as a form of multitasking and getting things done when I can't put my fingers on my phone or my laptop. I dictate a lot. And what that means is I turn my Apple computer on, hit the dictation button, and it will take what I'm saying and type it to text. There are applications that can do that. If you are a writer, this is very helpful. You can go back and edit later when everybody is sleeping. But to get the ideas down, I do a lot of dictation. The other thing I do too is I do a lot of smartphone writing. So on my smartphone, I have a notes app, but I also have Microsoft Word. And I'm able to download manuscripts that I'm working on. And if I got a few minutes, I'm thumbing it. I'm thumbing, the next sentence, next paragraph. I'm dictating on my phone to the Microsoft application. So there are mechanisms that can be leveraged to better use time. And of course, there are unique situations that we all have to deal with. And our advice is not meant to be the end all and be all, but I hope that was helpful. Before we get out of here, any shameless plugs you want to put out there?
Ladies first.
Well, I am working on my website. It's taking me a little bit longer, but I want to make sure that what I put out there is what is a good reflection of my brand and what I want to do for my clients and customers. So stay tuned for drlatanyahughes.com coming to you hopefully within the next few months. But I am also, you'll be finding me, I'm co-authoring a book that should be out this June on values and ethics. And so I am also, kind of online. I'm a little bit everywhere. I have a nonprofit organization. We'll be doing a live lady session next week on Wednesday night at 7:00. And we will be talking about relationship killers. So I'm pretty excited. I have three colleagues that will be on board. One is a specialist in emotional intelligence. The one is a leadership specialist, and the other is a psychotherapist. And so we'll be talking about relationship killers. And so that'll be next Wednesday at 7, and we'll be on Google hanging out on air. So I'm pretty excited. Stay tuned. You can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook at Dr. Latanya Hughes. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, TU Classified. I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Latanya Hughes. I'm out there. I'm everywhere. See me. Glad to see you. And I'll post my links in the chat.
She's everywhere you want to be.
Right.
All right. Well, again, my name is Dr. Philip Foster, and you can find me at MaximumChange.com, where you can inquire about coaching, mentoring, consulting work that I do. Also check out some of the writing that I do on my blog there. You can follow me on Twitter at Maximum Change. I also have a channel here on Blab where I do a regular blab on leadership and the topics of future and the future organization and the future of work. So you're welcome to check me out there or on YouTube at Maximum Change TV. Love to find you there. I've got some other things going on. I'm going to be launching full-blown a online university here, which you can find the link to that on my website. So that's all I have. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. I am working on a personal leadership book that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. I am finishing up a book chapter on inclusive leadership and how to build those skill sets. Like Philip, I'm working on a series of webinars where folks can just learn about leadership in a more personal way and how to develop their own skill sets. And I am too working on my website. It's coming and will be up and running soon. Guys, thank you so much for contributing to this conversation. To everyone watching, thank you for being a part of this conversation. We look forward to seeing you next time for Leadership Conversations.
Right.
Stay tuned to all the channels that we talked about. Hook up with us, talk to us. We'll be glad to connect with you guys. And you guys have a great one. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
See you next time.
See you.
Awesome.